was one day that I will never forget. I was sitting in the bathroom stall at my public high school and I was trying to discreetly pump breast milk. I was hiding in the stall. And I remember hearing the bathroom door open, and I had been hoping no one would come in, and hearing a group of girls come in. And I remember freezing and just eavesdropping as these 16-year-old girls talked about whatever it is that 16-year-olds talk about, you know, boys and clothes and their homecoming dates and their homecoming dresses. And I remember that moment specifically because it is a perfect example of how alien I felt. And so that feeling, that kind of embodies how I felt throughout high school, and which is where I really found refuge in my art class. I remember when I transferred schools, and I remember being enrolled in art class with Mr. Dickey, the art teacher, and the first little token of alliance, of friendship that I remember was I went up and I asked him to use the bathroom pass. And I was very pregnant at this point, and I remember him telling me, you don't have to ask me to use the bathroom pass ever again. You just take it whenever you need it, no questions asked. And that really contrasted from other teachers that I had that, you know, by contrast would embarrass me. His art classroom was attached by a door. There was a shared door to a shop room, and the shop room was hardly ever being used. And I remember him telling me one day, if you want to get out of the classroom, if you want to get away from everyone, from all your peers, from the noise, and you just need a quiet space to work, you can go work out in the empty classroom next door, and I'll set up a table for you. I had a tense relationship with my parents at home, and so it really at times during my pregnancy felt like art class was the one place I just couldn't wait to be every day. The next little token of friendship I remember him offering me was, well, firstly, he took an interest in my art that I created, and he really encouraged me and would say things like, wow, you know, you're onto something. You got something, girl. You got something special. You go, girl. He'd always say, you go, girl. At a certain point, came to me and said, you know, if you want to use my set, I did a lot of chalk art back then. He said, if you want to use my set of chalks, you can come grab it out of my office anytime. And it's just these tiny little things that made me feel like he saw me as a student, and he saw me as a potential artist. He didn't see my big belly. He didn't see me as the teen mom, the girl that got pregnant in high school. And especially at a time when all the other adults in my life viewed me as a disappointment, and he didn't. He empowered me. And so even after I had my son, by the end of my sophomore year, I retook his class every single term for the next 2 years of high school. And if I couldn't get into his, you know, he only had like drawing 1 and drawing 2. If I couldn't fit one of his classes into my schedule, he would let me sometimes be a TA or come help out with another class, or just let me re-enroll in drawing 1 for like the 6th time. And at a certain point, he came to me and he said, good news, I got your art displayed in the public library downtown. He wrote me a scholarship recommendation letter before I graduated, and that letter was one of the letters that helped me get granted a scholarship from the Ford Family Foundation, which allowed me to attend the University of Oregon. So when I was in college, and mostly, truthfully, I went to college because it was the right thing to do. Everyone in my life had told me, you have to go to college. And so I went to college and I majored in Spanish. And again, I was kind of fighting the idea that art could ever be a career. But on the weekends, I would go set up a booth at the local Saturday market, and I would sell my art and my paintings. And I remember one weekend, Mr. Dickey showed up, and I was so excited. I snapped a picture with him. So excited to show him my booth. And following college, when I graduated, I ended up kind of just lost, stumbling into the adult world and thinking, well, I guess I'll just get a corporate job. You know, I've checked all the boxes. I did all the things to prove that I could thrive, you know, as a professional in the world. I got a degree as a teen mom. I was so proud of myself. But then I didn't know what to do next. And so I got a job in real estate, and it was during this time I actually got temporarily furloughed from an office job during COVID. And I saw a warehouse pop up on Craigslist. And I don't know what got into me, but I just got this little itch, this idea of like, what if I turned this into like a paint and sip studio? Being the impulsive person that I am, I did it. I took the risk. I rented out this huge 1,000 square foot warehouse, and I painted it, and I hung art everywhere, and I painted the floors, and I made it all colorful, and I just posted on Facebook and my Instagram, I'm doing my first paint and sip. And I put the tickets up for sale on my website for like $30. And I remember by the second day, no one had signed up, and I actually cried. I was like, what did I get myself into? But by the time that day came around, it was sold out. The next week sold out, and then the next weekend sold out. And before you know it, I got called back to work. I was working full time again, but I was also doing these paint and sips every Saturday and every Sunday, and sometimes even on Thursday nights and Friday nights, and they were selling out one after the other. And I started doing kids art classes, and my son would come help me, and before you know it, I just had so much on my plate, and I started making more doing that than my job, that I decided I'm gonna just do something crazy. I'm gonna quit my job. I remember I was trying to coordinate a Thurston High School Mr. Dickey art class night, and I wanted to specifically get kids who had had Mr. Dickey's art class and invite Mr. Dickey himself, and just kind of have a big free-for-all, put out the art supplies, and like try to recreate art class, because at that time he had retired. And I reached out to him on Facebook to invite him, and it was at that time that he said he was no longer living in this town. He had moved to Ohio, but he said, I like what you're doing. I love what you're doing with your classes. You go, girl. And that was the last message that I ever got from him before finding out that he passed away. Finding out he passed away was more emotional than I anticipated it would be. You don't really realize as a high schooler how big of an impact a teacher might be having on your life until you're looking back at it later. And so when he passed away, I decided to do a painting in his honor, and I shared it on social media, on TikTok, and I made a tribute video about how he impacted my life. And I never in my wildest dreams expected it to get the views and the publicity that it did, which has led me to where I am today. And I feel so blessed and fortunate to be able to paint and do what I love for a living. I never imagined in my wildest dreams, when I was sitting in Mr. Dickey's art class with headphones in, trying to tune out the world, that someday sharing his legacy would have been part of what catapulted me into being able to do what I love for a living and chase my dreams. Yeah, that's my artist story, and that is how I got to where I am today. It's a story of chasing your dreams, I guess, despite what the world might tell you.